Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's Hector Aguilar of Aguilar Realty Group, and I'm here with my buyer associate, Ben. Ben, your agent with Aguilar Realty Group with eXp Realty. Today, we
Hello.
wanted to spend some time with you to review the request for repairs, right? The last training that we had or video we had, we talked about what happens once you do the physical inspection and what are the next steps. So, Ben, I know this week we actually spent some time together to write out the buyer's request for repairs. How did that
Right.
go for you? And did you have any questions about that?
Yeah, it was pretty simple. It's basically what I understand is, as you can see on the screen, guys, is anytime after inspection, your buyer will see some things that they want the seller to request. And as you taught me last week, we can request it, but it's under no obligation that the seller is going to, do it.
Correct.
So
Correct.
it was pretty easy, but yes, thank you.
Awesome. So what I wanted to talk to you about here, and I'm going to be sharing this request for repairs here, is what we did is we reviewed the inspection report with our client, and based on some of the things that we saw on the report, we put together a request for repairs. Now, in the state of California, there are some health and safety minimums that need to be present in the property. Number one, there's got to be working smoke detectors in the bedrooms, in the hallways, and one outside of the kitchen, for obvious reasons, right? The other one is not too many years ago, California stated or pardon me, enacted another regulation in which the carbon monoxide detector needed to be placed in every home that was sold. And the reason why is, as you know, carbon monoxide can be a silent killer. And so they made that a requirement as well. So this particular property was a property that was built in I believe it was 1952 or 53, in mid 50s. And so over time, it has some tenants currently, and I'm sure that over time there are some smoke detectors, but there was a couple missing. So as you can see here, our first thing was to ask the seller to install any missing smoke detectors according to the inspection report. The second thing we asked them to is we did discover that there wasn't a carbon monoxide detector in the property, so we asked them to install one. And we also noted that the heating unit, um, according to the inspector, was worn and needed to be serviced. So what we asked is for the seller to have the heating unit inspected and serviced by SoCal Gas Company. Now, here in Southern California, that's typically a service that the SoCal Gas Company will do for free for the owner. They'll give it a tune-up, they'll check it, and they'll give it an overall kind of a cleanup. So, and they'll make it work. So, in the state of California, and I'm assuming in most states of the union, it is a requirement that there be a minimum of at least heating in the household. So, that needs to be in working order. It's nice to have AC, but in Southern California, like this week, we're going to have temperatures in the triple digits, and so having an AC is a plus, but unfortunately, it's not a requirement by the state, just the heating unit. So what we did, Ben, is we put together this request for repairs, and we sent it in to our to the seller's agent this past week. And like I told you before in last week's training, is the seller has three options. Number one is the seller can accept the request that we that we've put together for them, or they can accept with exceptions, like they say, hey, we'll do this, but we won't do that, or they can deny all requests for repairs. Because in the state of California, under the Section 11 of our California Real Estate Purchase Agreement, every home is being purchased in an as-is condition, subject to buyer's inspections and the right to put together a request for repairs. However, the seller is under no obligation to do any of the repairs if they don't wish to. So, luckily for Mr. Morela and his family, we got good news, right, Ben?
Sorry about that.
It's all right. Well, what was the good
All
news
right,
that we got
everyone.
regarding this request for repairs?
The good news, everyone, is they're gonna take care of everything.
Fantastic. So, for the benefit of our buyer, the seller is going to go ahead, pardon me, and do these repairs. Now, let's just say that the request for repairs might have been a little bit more intense. Maybe there was leaks in the sink, or the plumbing was bad, or maybe there's issues in the roof. Those are maybe some more major items that you could request for repairs, or the buyer can take the property as is with maybe a credit towards those repairs, or a credit towards their closing costs. So that when the buyer takes possession, the buyer can do those repairs according to their standards and with the credit that the seller has given them. So in a nutshell, that's what happens with the request for repairs. Now what has to happen is, pardon me, is the seller will do those repairs, and we'll verify that those repairs have been done when we do our final walkthrough, which is typically done within 5 days of when we close. So our scheduled closing date on this particular property is a little further out because it is tenant occupied, and the seller delivered a notice to vacate to the tenant that had been in place there for a few years. And so they have a minimum, in the state of California, we have a minimum 60-day notice to vacate that is due to the tenant. So it's going to be a longer escrow, but we trust that the repairs will be done. And by the time we do our final walkthrough, we'll verify those have been completed. So that's it for today, the request for repairs and what to expect and what happens next. So stay tuned for next week for our next training. Ben, anything that comes to mind that would be a good topic for us to discuss next week?
I think maybe the fact that we can kind of not go into like the appraisal part, but what is appraisal and what does appraisal, what does people have to look for in an appraisal?
Sounds like a good plan. Typically after the request for repairs, and that's already agreed to, then the next step is to get the appraisal ordered. So we'll go ahead and have a little training on that and how that happens the next time we meet a week from today on Wednesdays at 1 o'clock. Stay tuned for our next video. Ben, thanks again for spending some time with me, and I'm excited about you learning about the real estate transaction as you're in one right now. It's going to be your first, so I'm excited for you.
Yes.
And it also gives me an opportunity to share our knowledge and our experience with our buyers and our sellers. So if you're in the market to sell or buy, please reach out to Hector Aguilar of the Aguilar Realty Group, and Ben and I, and of course our other buyers agents, will be more than willing to help you. So stay tuned for next week on next training, and thanks again for tuning in.
One more thing. If you're a buyer's agent and you don't have a team and you're in the Southern California area and you're looking for a team, reach out to us. You know, we are looking to build our team here at the Aguilar Realty Group.
Awesome. Well, take care, guys. Have an awesome afternoon. Thank you again.
Take care. Thanks, Hector. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ben. You're welcome.